There are moments in life that make you feel like the world is tilted, as if an invisible door has swung open, pulling you onto a path you weren't prepared to walk. For me, that moment came on a Thursday evening when a soft knock echoed through my quiet house at 9 p.m. I opened the door to find Claire, my neighbor I only knew through fleeting waves and small talk. She stood there under the dim glow of the porch light, her eyes sparkling with an untold story, a bottle of red wine in her hand, and a smile that was both shy and suggestive. "I don't want to drink alone," she said, her voice soft like a whisper drawing me into a whirlwind I couldn't resist. I had no idea that night would change everything, forcing me to confront the deepest corners of my heart, where desire, fear, and morality clashed like raging waves. I'm Ryan, 38, a single guy living in a quiet suburban neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago. My life is nothing extraordinary. A steady accounting job, weekend jogs along tree-lined streets, and Saturday nights spent watching Netflix with a cold beer. My house sits at the end of the street, right next to Claire and David's, a couple I only know through brief hellos. David, Claire's husband, is a software engineer who's often away on business trips, sometimes gone for weeks. Claire, 42, is the kind of woman you can't help but notice. Wavy brown hair, a smile warm like autumn sunlight, and eyes that are both gentle and enigmatic. I never thought much about her. Not because I didn't find her attractive, but because I'd learned to keep my heart in a safe place, where dangerous emotions couldn't reach. But that night, all the walls I'd built began to tremble. I'd just finished a work report, my mind exhausted and ready for an early night, when the knock came. It was soft, almost hesitant, but enough to startle me. I hesitated, wondering if I should answer. Through the peephole, I saw Claire, wearing a light blue sweater that hugged her frame, her hair loosely tied, and the wine bottle in her hand. Something about her stance, a mix of confidence and vulnerability, made me open the door without thinking twice. "Sorry to bother you," she said, her smile shy but her eyes deliberate. "I just opened this bottle, but drinking alone isn't much fun. Care to join me for a glass?" I paused. I'm not the type to hang out with neighbors, and part of me wanted to say no, to keep things simple. But Claire's eyes, the way she tilted her head slightly, made me feel like refusing would be a mistake. "Sure," I said, opening the door wider. "Come on in." We sat at the kitchen table, the soft golden light from the ceiling lamp casting a deceptively warm glow over the room. Claire poured the wine, the red liquid shimmering under the light, and we started talking. At first, it was just small talk. The old oak tree at the end of the street that got cut down last week. The neighbor's cat that keeps sneaking into my yard to sunbathe. But then, as if an invisible door had opened, Claire asked about my single life. "Is living alone fun, Ryan? Or does it ever feel empty?" Her question caught me off guard, the wine glass hovering near my lips. I looked into her eyes, searching for the real intent behind her words. "Sometimes," I said, my voice lower than usual. "I like the freedom, but there are nights when the house is too quiet, and I wonder if I'm missing something." I surprised myself with my honesty. I don't usually share things like that, especially not with someone I barely know. She nodded, her eyes touching on a hidden pain. "I get it. David's gone a lot, and I've gotten used to being alone. But being used to it doesn't mean I like it." She took a sip of wine, her fingers tracing the stem of the glass, and I realized I was staring at her too long. Sometimes, I wonder if this is all life is, just repeating day after day, with nothing new. Her words hung in the air, and I felt a jolt run through me. There was something in her voice, a raw honesty mixed with longing, that made me want to know more, to understand what lay behind that smile. We kept talking, the wine bottle emptying, and the conversation turned more personal. Claire shared her buried dream of becoming a painter, creating vibrant canvases of places she'd never been. But she'd given it up to support David, to be the perfect wife everyone expected. I told her about my breakup 2 years ago, about how I'd learned to live alone, but still heard the echoes of happier days in the silence of my house. When the clock neared midnight, Claire glanced at her phone and gasped. "Oh my God, I didn't realize it was this late." She stood, and I walked her to the door. At the threshold, she paused, turning to look at me. Her eyes seemed to hold something unsaid, but she only smiled. "Thanks, Ryan. It's been a while since my heart was racing." "Anytime, Claire." When the door closed, I stood there, my hand still on the knob, my mind reeling. I wasn't sure what had just happened, but I knew it wasn't just a neighborly evening. An invisible thread had been pulled taut between me and Claire, and I didn't know whether to cut it or let it pull me along. That night, as I lay in bed, her smile, the way she leaned closer when pouring more wine, and the look in her eyes replayed in my mind. I told myself I was overthinking it, that it was just a fleeting moment, but deep down, I knew I was standing at a dangerous crossroads. 2 days later, on a Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning out the garage, trying to keep my mind occupied, when that familiar knock came again. I opened the door to find Claire, wearing a white t-shirt and jeans, her hair tied up, a shy smile on her face. "I'm bothering you again," she said, her voice soft. "My washing machine's acting up. Do you know anything about fixing them?" I laughed, the tension in me easing slightly. "I'm no repairman, but I can take a look." I grabbed my toolbox and followed her to her house. Claire's home was spotless, with a faint vanilla scent from a candle on the table, and I couldn't help but notice the warmth of the space, as if it was inviting me to stay. The washing machine was in the basement, and after a few minutes, I found a loose belt. Not a big fix, but enough to keep me there a little longer. As I worked, Claire leaned against the wall, watching. "You're pretty handy," she said, her tone half teasing, half impressed. "Live alone long enough, and you pick up all sorts of skills, huh?" "Yeah, or you end up paying a fortune for repair guys," I shot back, making her laugh. Her laugh was clear and warm, and it sent a wave of emotion through me. I tried to focus on the task, but her eyes, the way she stepped closer every time I looked up, made me think of that night again. When I finished, she offered me coffee, and I didn't say no. We sat at the kitchen counter, steaming mugs between us. Claire asked if I liked being single, and this time I answered more honestly. "I like the freedom," I said, staring at the coffee to avoid her gaze. "But sometimes I wake up and realize this house is too big for one person, the silence. It can weigh on you." She nodded, her eyes distant. "I get it. David and we used to be best friends. We talk about everything, from silly dreams to future plans. But now, he's like a stranger. We talk, but we don't really talk." She paused, her fingers circling the rim of her mug, and I felt the sadness in her voice. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm still me, or just the shadow of the wife he wants." Her words hit a deep part of me. I wanted to comfort her, to say something to ease that pain, but I also felt a growing fear. I was being drawn into a story I didn't belong in, yet I couldn't deny that I wanted to stay, to know more about her. "Have you ever tried telling him?" I asked, my voice low. "How you feel?" She gave a bitter smile. "I've tried, but he doesn't listen. Or he doesn't want to. He's busy with work, with his own world. And I'm just part of this house, like the furniture." She looked at me, her eyes searching for an answer I wasn't sure I had. "Sometimes I just want to feel something, Ryan. Anything. To know I'm still alive." Her words hung there, and my heart pounded. There was a connection between us, an invisible thread tightening, and I knew that if I wasn't careful, I'd be pulled somewhere I couldn't come back from. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door. She stood closer than usual, and I could feel her breath, soft and warm. "Thanks, Ryan," she said, her hand brushing my arm for a fleeting second, but it was enough to make me feel like the world was tilting. I went home, my mind a mess. I wasn't naive. I knew what was happening. Claire was searching for something, and I, though I hated to admit it, was drawn to her. But she was married, and I wasn't the kind of guy who wrecked families. I told myself I'd keep my distance, that I wouldn't let this go further. But every time I thought of her eyes, my heart betrayed my resolve. Sunday night, I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone to distract myself from Claire when a text from her popped up. 10:30 p.m. Can't sleep, thinking about yesterday. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to reply immediately, to say I couldn't sleep either, that I was thinking of her too. But the rational part, the part screaming to stop, held me back. I typed a few responses, deleted them all. In the end, I left it unread. But I couldn't stop thinking about her eyes at the door, about her touch, about her saying she wanted to and saw Claire watering her plants in the yard, calm as if that text never existed. The sight both relieved and confused me. I decided to step outside, pretending it was casual. "Morning," I called, keeping my voice steady. She looked up, smiling. "Morning, Ryan." We chatted about the weather, about the maple tree in my yard dropping leaves, but I couldn't hold back. "About your text last night," I started, my voice hesitant. She looked down, then back at me, her eyes full of emotion. "I shouldn't have sent it," she said quickly. "I was just overthinking." "It's okay," I said, though we both knew it wasn't true. "I get it." She sighed, her shoulders slumping as if carrying an invisible weight. "Sometimes I feel like I'm living two lives. There's the Claire everyone sees, happy, put together, the perfect wife. And then there's the other Claire, awake at night, wondering if there's more to life than this. And I'm scared the real Claire is slipping away." Her words struck a chord deep within me, where I'd faced similar questions. I wanted to tell her I understood, that I too had nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if my life meant anything. But instead, I said something safer. "I think we all have that version, Claire, the one questioning if we're on the right path." She smiled, a sad but genuine smile. "Maybe you're right, but sometimes I'm scared I'm crossing a line I shouldn't." Her eyes searched mine, as if seeking permission, or perhaps a reason to stop. I wanted to tell her I felt it too, that I was struggling not to cross that line, but I just nodded. "Take it slow, Claire. Don't push yourself." She nodded, but her eyes told me she wasn't sure she could stop. When I went back home, a wave of emotions hit me. I was drawn to Claire, I admitted it. Not just because she was beautiful, but because of her honesty, the way she made me feel seen, truly seen. But I knew this was a dangerous path, and I wasn't sure I was strong enough to turn back. Wednesday evening, Claire knocked on my door again. This time, she carried a bag of food from a nearby Italian restaurant. "I ordered too much," she said, her smile shy but her eyes intentional. "Will you eat with me?" I let her in, though a voice inside screamed to say no. We sat at the kitchen table, and at first, it was light, like before. We talked about work, family, favorite movies. But, as always, the conversation deepened. Claire said David was on another trip, and she wasn't sure when he'd be back. "Sometimes I feel like he doesn't want to come home," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as if confessing a secret. I looked at her, searching for words to comfort her, but my heart was at war. Part of me wanted to help, to be someone she could lean on. But another part feared I was going too far. "Have you ever thought about telling him straight?" I asked. "That you're not happy?" She shook her head, her eyes full of pain. "I'm scared that if I say it, everything will fall apart. Or worse, he won't care. And then I'll have to face the fact that I've wasted years trying to save something that's already gone." She looked at me, her eyes pleading for an answer I didn't have. "Have you ever felt trapped in your own life, Ryan?" Her question stunned me. I thought of the days I woke up, worked, and came home to an empty house. Of the nights I wondered if my life had meaning. "Yeah," I said, my voice hoarse. "Sometimes I feel like I'm living a script I didn't write." She smiled, but it was laced with pain. "So, what do we do with that feeling, Ryan?" "Keep pretending or find a way out?" I had no answer, and the silence between us grew heavy. When dinner ended, Claire didn't rush to leave. We sat there sipping wine, the air thick with tension. She stood, stepping closer to grab the wine bottle, and her hand brushed mine. This time, she didn't pull away. She looked at me, her eyes an invitation, and my blood rushed. My heart pounded, and for a moment, I thought I'd let it happen. But then, I remembered David, the moral walls I'd built. "Thanks, Ryan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know what I'd do without these nights." I swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. "I enjoy them too, Claire, but we need to be careful." She nodded, but her eyes said she didn't want to be careful. When she left, I stood at the door, feeling like I'd stepped closer to a cliff, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. Friday came, and I tried to avoid Claire. I worked late, jogged longer, anything to not think about her. But when I got home, her text was waiting. "I need to talk. Tonight okay?" I stared at it, my heart racing. I knew this conversation would change everything. Part of me wanted to say no, to keep things as they were, but the part craving something more won. "Okay," I replied. Claire knocked. My place, she wore a thin sweater, her hair loose, her eyes resolute. I let her in, and we sat on the couch, facing each other. No wine, no food, just the tension in the air. My heart pounded, as if it knew this moment would define everything. "Ryan," she began, her voice shaking, "I need to say this, or I'll go crazy. I think I'm in love with you." Time stopped. My heart clenched, torn between pain and desire. Part of me wanted to stand, pull her into my arms and let it happen. But the rational part, the part that remembered morality, David, the consequences, held me back. "Claire," I said, my voice rough, "you can't say that. You're married." She shook her head, tears falling. I know it's wrong, but I can't pretend anymore. David and I, we lost each other long ago. I'm not happy, Ryan. And when I'm with you, I feel alive again. I feel seen, understood." I stood, stepping away, trying to keep distance. Her words were like a knife, painful yet sweet. "Claire, I won't lie. I feel something too," I said, my voice trembling. "But this isn't the way. You need to face David, not run to me." She stood, stepping closer, her eyes desperate. "I've tried, but he doesn't see me, not like you." She touched my cheek, and the world tilted. "Tell me you feel nothing, Ryan. Say it, and I'll leave." I wanted to say it, to tell her I felt nothing, that she should go home and forget me, but I couldn't, because I did feel it. I felt everything, the longing, the connection, the temptation pulling me somewhere I knew was wrong. In that moment, I thought I'd give in. But then, David's image, their marriage, flashed in my mind. I remembered my promise to never be the guy who ruins someone's life. I took her hand, gently pushing it away. "Claire, I can't," I said, my voice nearly breaking. "Not because I don't want to, but because I can't be the one to destroy your life. You deserve better than this. You deserve happiness, but not like this." She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I know you're right, but that doesn't make it hurt less." She turned, walked to the door, and this time, she didn't look back. The door closed, and I stood there, feeling like I'd lost something I never truly had. My heart ached, but I knew I'd done the right thing. Yet, that rightness didn't ease the emptiness swallowing me. In the days that followed, I didn't see Claire. I heard David was back, and their life seemed to return to normal. I don't know if she talked to him, but I hope, deep down, she'll find a way to face her truth. As for me, I spent many nights replaying what happened, how I stood at the edge and chose to step back. I don't regret it, but I can't deny Claire left a mark on my heart, a scar I'll carry forever. This story is part of the Cheater's Diary, where we share real tales of moments that shake the heart and choices that change lives. I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a temptation you knew was wrong, but made your heart race? Have you had to make a painful choice to do what's right, even when it tore you apart. Share your story in the comments below. We read everyone, and yours might inspire or even be featured in a future episode. Don't forget to hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with friends to join us in exploring the secrets of the heart on the Cheater's Diary. This is Ryan. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.